All right, here's Katrina Pierson 2.0. She made a fool out of herself in her last interview. She does a bit better job of trying to circle her wagons on this one, but it's just a bit better.
And get on message. Katrina Pierson is the national spokesperson for the Trump campaign, and she joins me now live from Dallas. Katrina, the statement given by Lindsey Graham to our Hallie Jackson saying that these remarks are un-American, prompting him to say he's not going to vote for Donald Trump, he's not going to vote for Hillary Clinton, he's going to write in a candidate of his choice. There are many critics that are coming out from within the GOP. We have Mitch McConnell there telling Trump to get back on message. Paul Ryan has come out saying this is overtly racist of Trump to make a statement like this. Bob Corker among the voices echoing the thoughts of Senator Graham today. How does the Trump campaign respond to the accusations of racism?
Well, I think this is pretty typical when you talk about the GOP establishment. I mean, for decades.
Okay, so now Trump's going to attack the GOP establishment behind racist comments that he made. So it's their fault.
Anytime there's any criticism or controversy, they've always shied away and tucked their tails and run, particularly when race is involved. And that's the reason why Donald Trump is the GOP nominee and not the establishment pick. And we have always...
Because there's a racist contingency within this country that's supporting him, that is able to come out of the woodworks. And it's a much larger contingency than we wanted to previously believe.
Known that race is always going to be an issue because it is the left and the media that seems to be obsessed with it. And in that clip that you just showed with Mitch McConnell being asked the exact same question essentially 10 times, getting the same response, they are just simply obsessing over it. Look, this is an issue that arose because you had the media pushing the narrative that somehow Trump University was fraudulent. We heard it a number of times. Mr. Trump defended those accusations, as he should, and when pressed for the reasons why,
it's not the media pushing accusations of fraudulent activity from Trump University. These are former students that brought forward a case against Trump University, and Donald Trump decided to air some of the dirty laundry about this civil suit that appeared before a federal judge in Gonzalo Curiel and decided to throw race into the mix by...
Exactly. It was Trump that injected race into this thing, and there's no getting around it. Okay, Katrina.
Calling into question that judge's integrity and saying that because he's of Mexican ethnicity, that he has bias because Donald Trump wants to build a wall between the U.S. and Mexico. Correct?
Well, that's not completely correct, Thomas.
So you're admitting that it's partially correct, even in your own eyes.
Here's why. Because when you are dealing with the media, normally they're supposed to report both sides of the issue, and that wasn't the case here. For weeks, they simply just talked about those individuals who were suing Mr. Trump and never even mentioning that many of the plaintiffs in this case have either been dismissed and have already proven that they have actually liked the courses at Trump University. There was this constant barrage of negative comments with regards to Trump University and never once mentioning the 10,000 students, which can be found at 98%approval.com, who have said the university was fantastic. You haven't seen one person brought up that actually made millions of dollars by attending these seminars.
Let me ask you to stand by for 1 second.
Okay, so you haven't had one person that's actually made millions of dollars by attending these universities. And the one point, Katrina, that you failed to mention is the fact that 25% of the students that attended Trump University requested and received refunds on the monies that they spent. And it was only after that point that they stopped issuing refunds because they saw that it was looking like the majority of the students were going to come back to them asking for refunds. Now, you can debate whether they were entitled to the refunds or not, but there was a tremendous number of people who showed major dissatisfaction with that fraudulent, and it is fraudulent because it was not properly licensed in the state of New York, okay? That fraudulent university, and something just had to be done, but you are unwilling to recognize this. I cannot wait for the New York suit to take place, because that's the suit where they're actually going to nail Donald Trump. And hopefully, if they can get that suit done before this suit is scheduled to resume, which is, I think it's the end of November. It's after the election, but it's the end of November. When the state of New York blows him up and he loses that suit to a Caucasian American district attorney, who he's now claiming has taken some type of contribution funds from some law organization in California. So he's going to claim that the white guy is biased too. This is going to be epic.
An Indiana-born federal judge, Donald Trump calling into question his integrity and potential bias because of having Mexican heritage. But this was Mr. Trump's lawyer about the Trump University suit. This was from May the 6th, talking about whether or not this judge should recuse himself. Take a listen.
You had said you have no plans to ask the judge to recuse himself. Can you talk about that?
You know, the judge is doing his job, and we're not seeking to recuse the judge. We're trying to assert our rights, and I think the court today did a job of trying to balance out competing interests. He made the decision we preferred a trial later in time, and he said it November 28th, but it was preferable to before the election.
So that's one particular instance where the judge sided with the Trump people. But I guess Trump thought that that wasn't fair either.
So, Katrina, that was just roughly a month ago. We know that he's now asking for the judge to recuse himself. And Bloomberg Politics is reporting that Donald Trump overruled his staff, told surrogates to publicly defend him on Trump University. This was from a Monday phone call with all of the surrogates on the same line. What can you tell us about the call? And specifically, were you instructed to call reporters the real racists if they asked you questions about Judge Curiel and Trump's comments?
All right, here comes Katrina again, and she's going to basically open a door unknowingly to herself for Donald Trump to basically reconsider his remarks and step back from them and apologize.
Well, no, actually, there's a couple of things here, so let me start from the beginning. It's comical what Harry Reid just said, considering that it was Harry Reid who talked about Barack Obama's candidacy as a thin, light-skinned black man without a Negro dialect, and then had to publicly apologize for his own racist statements. Secondly, with this case and Mr. Trump and the lawyer you just played, this lawyer has to deal with that judge on a daily basis, and we have no insight to the legal strategy there. And with regard to the call, well, first...
That's funny. Maybe you should ask your lawyer what his strategy is. But I guess that never crossed Donald Trump's mind or your mind to ask your own attorney that you're paying for what his strategy is in order to win your case. Really?
First of all, the allegations with this judge was not just because of his heritage. This was also included because of the affiliations that he has with...
Oh, so his heritage is part of the problem. Now, she's going to jump into affiliations. He has none. As soon as he became a judge, he had to drop any and all political affiliations, including organizations such as the Boy Scouts, which, in my opinion, is not a political organization, but it has had political controversy regarding homosexual troop leaders being allowed. So what you're saying, Katrina, is a lie. He has no affiliations and has not had any political affiliations ever since Arnold Schwarzenegger, super Republican, appointed him as a judge in the state of California.
pro-illegal immigrants and pro-amnesty organizations. So activism, there is a bias there. With regard to the phone call that we had, no, Mr. Trump didn't order anyone to do anything. This was a call where Mr. Trump was thanking his surrogates and then took questions and answers, just like he does with the press on an ongoing basis.
That does not fit Trump's personality. Trump doesn't ask people to do stuff. Trump tells people to do stuff, i.e. telling Chris Christie to go get on the plane, etc., etc., etc. She's lying, just like the majority of his surrogates that are paid for by him do. They lie. They're paid liars.
And when asked what he wanted us to do, he said, sure, tell them the truth. Get our message out there because it's not being told in the media.
So Reid, as you mentioned about that comment that he made, he did apologize for that comment. When he was informed and educated about the statements that he made had offended. So is Donald Trump prepared to inform himself, educate himself about what this has done, and potentially apologize?
Busted.
Well, Mr. Trump's statement, again, was connected to the bias associated with the...
That's not the point. That's not the point. The point was the statement that he made offended people. It offended large groups of people. He needs to apologize to the group of people, not over the comment regarding his own civil matter, but making a racist statement.
Because of the organizations that this judge is connected to, including two.
The judge is not connected to any organizations. That's a lie.
One, which is part of pushing protests against Mr. Trump, and another boycotting Trump businesses.
Boycotting Trump business? No, Jesus, now they're going out into left field. It is true, okay, it is true that at the Trump properties, the Trump hotels, the majority of them are all suffering large, and I do mean large, reductions in the bookings and occupancy. There is one property that is showing a small increase in bookings and occupancy, and that's the Trump property that's located in Hawaii. But for all of you that know anything, Hawaii is like a completely different world as far as hotel bookings, etc. It's hard as hell to get into a hotel, especially if you're trying to use a timeshare in Hawaii. So that's an aberration. But people are making conscious decisions not to support Donald Trump with their dollars.
There's a huge difference here with what Harry Reid said versus what Mr. Trump said.
So were you instructed or suggested to, as well as the other surrogates, to flip the script on journalists asking you that question about these comments being racist and call the journalists the real racists? Yes or no?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The statement was made that it is the media that's being racist. And as I have said, there are two groups in this country that are obsessed with race, and it is the far left and the media. And as you just played in that clip with Mitch McConnell, he was asked the exact same question 10 times, all obsessing about race, and he gave the exact same answer every time.
So does Mr. Trump understand that people do find these remarks to be offensive, even within the GOP that are calling this to be racist remarks? Are they racist in feeling that way? Where is the disconnect here, Katrina?
Well, I think the disconnect, Thomas, and it's a great question, the disconnect is actually the context of the statements. Again, the statements alone, they can sound racial in nature, but when you put it in the context of the ethnicity connected to the activism, potential judicial activism, which the media for decades have been putting people like Black Lives Matter out there, giving them a platform, and their entire premise is activism regarding activism with ethnicity in the court system. So all of a sudden, it doesn't matter in this case. So I think the context here is what's important.
The context, she's coming up with the context. The context was about him screaming blue murder, that he's being mistreated in a civil suit and throwing up, quote unquote, a potential reason why. That's the context. So don't give me this bullshit about it's the context. Trump injected race into this thing. If he had kept his mouth, all he had to say was, the judge is giving me a bad deal. The judge is giving me a bad deal. He was the one that threw in that I think he's Mexican. So I don't want to hear it's the context. And the judge isn't Mexican. The judge is an American. He is an American of Mexican heritage. So that in itself was bullshit. And now, on top of that, just in case you guys don't know, Donald Trump has done this before. Donald Trump has had 2 previous judges removed back in 2002 on a case that they resided over. One was an African American male and one was a white female. And he was citing some of the same issues. Now, how he got them removed, I don't know. But I guess he figured the 3rd time was a charm and he was going to be able to get over on getting this judge removed as well. And that ain't happening.
But doesn't Judge Curiel's work taking on the Mexican drug cartels, having to hide himself and his family for over a year, doesn't that go to speak to the character in which he serves in this federal position on the bench?
Well, I don't think anyone is questioning the work that he's done in the past. I think what's being questioned now are the decisions that are currently being made in this case.
Oh, so you're saying basically that he's changed his entire manner of thinking as far as dealing with issues having to do with any thought or touching of the subject of Mexico, the wall, illegal aliens, drug dealers, etc., that he's going to be biased. Well, he's proven and laid his life on the line for this country in going after illegal activities. So I don't think so, Katrina.
He was not the original judge on the case, and there were several decisions that were made, which Mr. Trump talks about the case should have been thrown out. Once the plaintiff leaves the case, there should be no case, particularly.
Once the named plaintiff leaves the case, if the case is a class action lawsuit, which this is, the case continues.
When the other plaintiffs in the case had their biggest complaints of these classes where they wanted softer chairs and lunch sandwiches brought into their seminars, hardly a case for fraud.
We know
the case for fraud is that you did not deliver what you claimed and you misrepresented all the things that the students were supposed to get, i.e. principle of which were hand-picked instructors by Donald Trump.
Chris Christie, because Katie Tur just reported, was seen walking into Trump Tower toward the top of the hour. Do you know what that meeting is about?
Well, there are actually a lot of Republican leaders that are going to be meeting with Mr. Trump going up to the convention. Mr. Trump has vowed to meet with anyone who wanted to meet with him. He wants to talk to everyone, and he wants to hear everyone out. That is who Mr. Trump is, and so all these meetings are taking place.
Katrina Pierson.
Unfortunately, he may hear their words, but he never takes anything to heart. So this is going to go on for a while. And I believe if Trump actually told these people to go after these reporters when they question him about this judge, we're going to see it over the next several days until the next Trump blow-up occurs.